In 2022, I stood on the shoreline of the Atlantic Ocean in South Florida. As I began to look out at the waves, I had a vision. I saw the waves relentlessly crashing against the shoreline. No matter how consistently the waves crashed, the large rocks along the shoreline were immovable, unshakable, and seemingly unaffected by the mighty waves. As I stood there, the Holy Spirit gave me a mandate for our generation. But first, he took me back to the Apostle Paul, who in the year AD 30 broke through the oppressive religious legalism of the Jewish elite and the rampant moral decay of the Roman Empire. Sexual perversion, idolatry, and demonic doctrines were destroyed by first century apostles like Paul, who were willing to face martyrdom just to make a movement. Then he took me to the year 1536, where William Farel from Neuchâtel, Switzerland, was instrumental in spreading a new reformation. He boldly persuaded his friend John Calvin to stay in Geneva, where Calvin would go on to lead one of the most essential Protestant movements in history. But it would not have happened unless his friend William demanded that he stood resolute in Geneva. Finally, he took me to a sawdust-floor tent revival of Oral Roberts in 1954, where television cameras were being used for the very first time to broadcast signs, miracles, and wonders across the country in real time. This innovative use of technology blew on the embers of revival in this nation and caused a generation to see yet another gospel movement. Now, the year is 2024. Paul, William, Oral are gone. They finished their race. But globally, 1 in 8 people now live with a mental health disorder, and rates of depression and anxiety have skyrocketed. The top 1% of the world's population controls more than 45% of the world's wealth, while the bottom half owns less than 2%. Inflation continues to erode middle-class savings. Housing affordability is at its all-time low in decades, and millions are priced out of home ownership. Homelessness, particularly in major cities, is at crisis levels, while 600,000 people are homeless in the United States alone. The world is more divided than ever before. Political divisions in countries like the US, Brazil, and the UK have led to widespread distrust in governments and in institutions. In the US, trust in government is at historic lows, while only 20% of surveyed Americans say that they trust the federal government to do what is right most of the time. The cries of 3.5 million unborn were silenced from just 2021 until today. In a time of wars and rumors of wars, in a time of famine and great instability, in a time of mass confusion in identity. Isaiah chapter 59 verse 19 declares, "So shall they fear the name of the Lord from the west, and his glory from the rising of the sun. When the enemy shall come in like a flood, the Spirit of the Lord shall lift up a standard against him." And today, here, now, he lifts up a standard. You are the new standard bearer. A breaker is a structure of rocks that are jointly fit together to form a barrier against the relentless waves. We rise against the tide of fear, of depression, of suicide, refusing to be swallowed by the darkness. When the storms rage over our families, over our communities, over our nation, we are the biblical standard bearers for a generation. The ones who plant our feet steady and strong and say, "Enough!" We are called to push back the waves of addiction, of broken homes, of lost dreams. We carry the banner of the cross, the message of light in a darkened world. But we don't just hold the line, we advance. Together, we break through the barriers. Together, we change the course of history. in the face of chaos and confusion. We are the wild ones who stand firm. We refuse to be swept away. And when the enemy comes in like a flood, we are the breakers. When they attempt to indoctrinate our children, we are the breakers. When addiction and chains have them in darkness, we are the breakers. When fear threatens to paralyze our very future,